Hey, Steve Saretsky here. As always, Canadian real estate market update with a particular focus on Vancouver. If you get any sort of value or entertainment out of these videos, all I ask that you hit thumbs up and subscribe. Questions, comments, put those below. Quick little bit of housekeeping before we dive into this video. The Saretsky Report for January 2019 is now available. It's essentially a comprehensive report on the Vancouver real estate market from a macro picture. We talk a lot about China, bond yields, really put everything together into my writing. So far the feedback has honestly been very humbling. So I know if you find any sort of value out of these videos, the report will certainly be right up your alley. So there's going to be a link to that below where you can go and read it for free. You can also subscribe to it so you get each report every single month. Again, the plan is to keep that free. So hope you enjoy that. Check it out. But without further ado, I want to jump into the Vancouver housing market for the month of January. As I talked about in last week's video, gave you a little bit of a preview for the numbers, but now they are official. The media has reported on them, so we know where everybody stands. The detached market and the condo market both had 10-year lows in sales volumes for the month of January. So it's essentially just a continuation of the trend. Sales volumes are very, very weak. The market is becoming ever more illiquid. This is causing an imbalance between asking prices and what sellers are willing to pay. And so you have basically low volume. And in order to get a product sold, you need to lower the price. And that's why we're now seeing home prices declining across all segments. I think the benchmark for a detached home in Greater Vancouver fell 9% year over year, give or take. I have to double check on that. I think in the city of Vancouver specifically it was 14%, which again fluctuates based on the product. So if you're looking at a detached luxury home on the west side, it's down 25 to 30%. There's no way to mosey around that. That's just what it is. Now, if you're looking at a single-family house with a one-bedroom basement suite, mortgage helper, entry-level home, it's probably down 12, maybe 15%. So you have kind of two slightly different products, but for the most part, it's irrelevant. They're both declining. Obviously, the high-end always gets hit the hardest because it's in a liquid market. How many people can't afford $3, $4, $5 million homes? Very, very few, particularly when you withdraw a lot of that foreign capital, which we're seeing with the Chinese economic slowdown and the tightening of their capital controls, which is rippling through global property markets from Sydney, Melbourne, UK, Manhattan, Seattle. They're all reporting weakness in sales volumes and in prices as well. So, and then we look at the condo market, 10-year low in sales. The benchmark price year over year dropped 1.7%. So, only 1.7%, not bad. But as per the real estate board, don't shoot the messenger. The real estate board, which is one of the most optimistic entities out there, reported in the news that the MLS benchmark price for condos has declined 6.6% in the last 6 months. So 6.6% in the last 6 months. So 1% a month. You can do the math, and this is why I always tell clients, because a lot of them, you say, "Oh, Steve, well, yeah, the prices are kind of going down, but it seems like it's so slow moving." And I say, well, like, yes, it's true. Like, if you're not analyzing the market on a day-to-day basis, it's very hard for the average person to even say, well, prices, how much are prices down? Because if they're falling 1% a month, nobody's going to notice. You're not going to notice a 1% decline every month. It's only 1 year later when you go, oh, wait, all of a sudden prices are down 12%. People will notice that, but you won't notice the 1% movements each month. What you notice is the 1 year time period where you say, oh my gosh, all of a sudden prices are down 12%. So I think that's important. I think what's happening is the way that the media is reporting the news. It's hard to paint a good picture when sales are at a 10-year low. So what happens is, I in my report, I put together a piece which showed, consumer sentiment and how that sways markets, whether it's stocks, real estate, or tulip bulbs. It's all consumer sentiment. I posted an article showing 2 articles from the Financial Times. One from February 2016, one from February 2019. February 2016 headline goes, Vancouver home sales have record year in 2015, prices surge. Now just imagine what that does for consumer sentiment. February 2019, same newspaper, Financial Times. Vancouver home sales plunged to decade lows in January. Imagine how that's going to weigh on the consumer sentiment. So that's what I'm focused on moving forward, is how a lot of it's interpreted. I think that the way that the MLS home price index is calculated, the way that the data is reported and pulled in, is a lagging indicator. So the home price index, there's declines are already priced in for the home price index. They are already priced in. So you'll continue to see year-over-year declines accelerate to the downside just based on the sole way that the home price index is reported. So you can take that one to the bank. But again, I think just for me, one thing I want to hit home is, you can agree with me, disagree with me. I think 2 opposing views are what make a market. And so I don't think there's necessarily a right or wrong. I try to stick to the data. I have my own thesis on the economy and on the markets. I think we're reaching the end of the business cycle. I think global growth is slowing, and it's being led by China and Europe. And that's going to weigh on the economic growth, particularly in Canada, and particularly for luxury real estate, which has been dependent on Chinese capital flows and an abundance of local domestic credit. So not only are Chinese capital flows being stymied, but you also have a tightening of domestic credit here, where mortgage credit growth is at a 35-year low. And so both of those factors, along with local taxes, speculation taxes, etc., are all coming together and weighing on the market. And that's just the reality of VR. And at the same time, you have a business cycle which is extended and is rolling over. Again, like, everything is cyclical, and it's not something that you should be, sweating over and concerned and, doomsday and like the world's ending. These things are cyclical. This is what happens. Home prices come up, home prices go down. Unemployment goes up, unemployment goes down. Nothing grows to the sky in linear fashion. So, in Canada, you have a 43-year low unemployment rate. It can't really go any lower. It's bound to tick higher. And so as growth slows, as real estate and construction, which probably the largest component, a huge component anyways of Canadian GDP, as that slows and as global growth slows, that's going to weigh on the Canadian economy. So unemployment really has nowhere to go. It's already bottomed. It will move higher. That is not a question. It's just a matter of when we start to see those reflected in the data. But as of today, it's still at 43-year lows. But people, unfortunately, extrapolate that into forever, as if the good times will last forever. Unemployment will continue unabated. So that's why there'll be a rebound in the real estate market. That's why rents will continue to rise. But again, sort of ignoring the cyclical factors of that and the knock-on effects of a slowing everything that we've just talked about. So, like, one of my main theses is you have a lot of reports suggesting that rents in Vancouver will continue to rise. So there's never been a housing market in history where home prices have been falling, which is deflationary, for a significant amount of time, deflationary, and then rents are rising, which is inflationary. So you might see that like potentially temporarily, but for the most part, like Vancouver is now through, I think, well into their correction, where home prices are clearly deflationary. They're clearly going down. The economy is clearly slowing. Wage growth came in at 1.8% in December, still below the rate of inflation. And so, this is like, well, rents are going to keep going up. Rents are going to keep going up. But like, we're not understanding that rents are largely tied to the labor market. And what you see, like so I picked up the phone and called largest property managers in Vancouver, not hard to get a hold of. And I said, well, look, can you tell me what's going on? Like, I have my data, I'm looking at my data, and it's showing rent prices are flat year over year. There's virtually no growth. Again, that's what the data is showing, but please tell me, because like, what are you seeing? And he says, I can tell you without a doubt that rent prices for single family homes are declining in Greater Vancouver. He says basically what he's seeing is there's a lot of people putting their homes on the market, because of vacancy tax, speculation tax. But he's like, condos are also flat. But he says the houses are declining. And he's like, I haven't had one person in the last 6 months pay me my full asking price for my rents on the houses. So again, it's kind of like, and people feel free to debate that, but that's just what it is. Again, feel free to disagree, but that's kind of where we are. And like, I'll take another example is Toronto real estate. So the developers are all like, we need to build more, we need to build more, we need to build more, cut the red tape, like this is crazy, like there's no housing supply, cut the red tape, let us build. And then there's a 20-year low in new home sales. That's the market telling you that you're probably oversupplied, you're probably producing more than the demand. If you have a 20-year low in new home sales, that's the market telling you that we think that there's not enough demand for that product. And again, that's totally a contrarian view. I'm not against new housing supply. I think it is necessary, but I think the market is saying something. And I mean, the developers, I mean, the construction costs are up like 30% year over year. They're all delayed on their projects, which is basically telling you that they're already running at overcapacity. So even if you wanted to build more, you cannot build more. And so these are all like the knock-on effects. And long story short, I'll wrap this up, but I think it's important that people sometimes step out of the industry. I just met with one developer and he's like, I like talking to you because, I go to these real estate events and it's always the same talk. All the reports that I read, it's always the same. It's always bullish, positive, optimistic, everything's gonna be fine, rah, rah, rah. But he's like, it's different because, we're getting a different view and we're taking the whole macro. And I said, like, that's like been my biggest thing. Same thing for me. Every time I read a real estate report, it's much different than when I read a hedge fund report. From some of the smartest people in the world that are completely objective. They have to manage billions of dollars to the best of their ability. And so they have much different views on the world because they have to step out of their own industry and look at things as a whole. And so that's what I try to do through a lot of my research, a lot of my subscriptions. I would encourage people to check out some of the subscriptions that I have. I mean, John Malden's Malden Economics over my shoulder. Like, I just signed up for it. It's $15 a month, and you get a report like every single day from some of the smartest people in finance. Like, the insights you get from that is tremendous, and it costs you $15. Daniel DiMartino Booth, former inside Federal Reserve, right-hand person to some of the top Fed officials, giving you leading economic indicators and research for $30 a month. Every single day you get a research piece from her. This kind of stuff, I think if you can take it and apply it to your own situation, will make you infinitely better. And so that's all I got. I think, hopefully that helped. Otherwise,